ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gig Member Q&A call. Today is Tuesday, August the 27th. Your host, James Cronk and Scott Massey with you. And James, I know what the audience is thinking. Guys, are you really going to talk about insurance today? Right? But, there's an insurance broker that I know who likes to say insurance isn't sexy. And while that's true, insurance, risk management, maybe not the most exciting topics, but they're actually one of the most crucial aspects to get right when you're running a business. And that includes a golf club, right? So, for me, they're things that are often misunderstood, they're overlooked, yet they're really the backbone of protecting a club against the repercussions of unexpected incidents, I guess you could say. And so, we've been doing a lot in this space lately, which I'm sure we'll get into today. But, the fact is we've been hearing a lot about some really alarming things that are happening at clubs that are leading to things like lawsuits and insurance claims. And it seems they all could be prevented by club managers if they were just employing better risk management practices. So that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to go deep on helping Gig Nation ensure that their clubs are fully protected. So, whether that's understanding risk management, balancing coverage with cost, the importance of waivers, our expert guest, Ashley Chinner, is going to break it all down for us. And we're going to identify what clubs need to know to safeguard themselves going forward.
Yeah, Scott, if you manage a club, if you own a club, if one day you hope to manage a club, you at some point will have a need to have a great relationship with your insurer, with your broker, because I've been in the business for, like you, Scott, decades, floods, fires, accidents, lawsuits, damage, theft. The list goes on and on and on. And you never know how important it is until you have to deal with it. Yeah. And then you realize how critical it is. So yeah, we've got a fantastic, not only is he an insurance guru, he's also, I met Ashley when he was one of the best golfers in the country a long time ago. And I know he's still a pretty good stick. So let's bring on our guest, Mr. Ashley Chinner, Senior Vice President from Signature Risk Partners in Canada and Signature Specialty in the United States. Ashley, welcome to the Gig Live Q&A call.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks, James. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the intro. So I'm just happy to be here. Yeah, that's what I do. I talk about boring insurance.
And you're going to try and make it sexy for us, right?
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah. And
if we have to put on some music, just let us know, Ashley. Just let us know.
Okay.
So Ashley, I mentioned, before that, and we were talking offline. I mean, I remember you being like the Canadian Club Pro champion, and we were playing all over the world on tour, and a great golfer, and then getting in the insurance business. I know you've been in the insurance business for a couple decades. So give our listeners, if you don't mind, a little background about your journey in the world of golf.
Well, typically, I mean, you get into golf, and as soon as you start to like it, you realize you figure, I can beat everyone, right? So when you first get in the game, you want to play, right? So we all want to play. We want to play the game, and all the other stuff doesn't really matter. So I've played professional golf in all 10 provinces. I've played in, I think it's 32 different countries. I've played in almost 40 states. Wow. And so I've seen some amazing places, from Bali, Indonesia, to Moncton, or as Guy Boros used to say, where are we going? Fred Ericton? Yes, yeah. So we have played all over the world, and
do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite course, Ashley?
Royal County Down.
Yeah.
In Ireland, it's magnificent.
Been lucky enough to play it a couple times. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, beautiful. Like the pictures from every single spot that you stand on the golf course. It's amazing.
So what got you into insurance? How'd you make that transition?
So, I was playing probably the best golf of my life in '99, and my wife, we had a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and my wife was 8 months pregnant. And I called her up and I said, "Hey, honey, I finished 15th in from Albuquerque," and she goes, "Just get home, get home, get home." So that was kind of, I had to sit there and go, okay, well, what's most important? And to me, family was always very, very important. And I always figured, I'd be able to come back and fit into the industry somehow as a golf pro, teaching pro, and maybe a general manager someday or whatever. But that was a long time ago. Um, it didn't work out that way. I mean, I started working at a club as an assistant and teaching pro, but as an assistant, and I won the 2000 Canadian Assistants. So in 2001, I came back as defending champion, and I was paired with the main sponsor. And at that time, the main sponsor was an insurance company that basically what they did was they insured golf courses. And I like to say it was my personality and my good looks, and I could have been the 4 eagles and the 9 under 63 that I shot. They grabbed their attention, and one of the things I learned about golf is you meet some amazing people, right? So I'd always get their name, their number, and send them a little note afterwards and say, "Hey, thanks. It was really nice to meet you. If you ever in the area again, let's play." He came back right away and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about being in the insurance business?" And I was like, "Is that one S, two S? I don't know how to spell insurance." Don't worry about that. We'll teach you that. You just keep your personality and so that was, believe it or not, that was 9/11/2001 when I played in that tournament. A day that I'll never forget for obviously a number of reasons. And by April 1 the following year, I was fully into the insurance business. So it's 2002. So it's been, wow, 22 years. It's gone by quickly. At times it's stressful. Um, but I've loved every minute of it. I'm always learning. Um, yeah, insurance is not sexy. It's just not sexy. But I remember one of my mentors told me a long time ago that insurance is perfectly priced until there's a claim. So, until you have a claim, you're good. But as soon as you have a claim, all of a sudden everything changes. So that's what I want to try and focus on here is um, trying to stay away from the claims. And if you do have a claim, the most important thing as an owner operator is to make that call and go, "This just happened. I'm covered," right? So that's kind of what we want to try and educate people to make sure that sometimes spending the extra $200, $2,000 is worth every penny down the road.
Ashley, how long have you been with Signature?
I've been with Signature going since 2011, so 13 years. Yeah.
And so, I mean, Signature for those in Canada, and then Signature. My understanding in the last, I don't know, 3-4 months, you guys have opened up and moving into the United States with Signature Specialty.
Yeah, Signature Specialty. We launched soft launch January 1 of this year. We actually wrote our first policy February 1. So 30 days of making phone calls, getting everything lined up. There's a lot in the background that goes into it. Golf courses, they all look similar, but they tend to be a little bit bigger and a little higher risk the further south you go from where we're sitting right now.
And that's kind of the first thing I want kind of our listeners to understand with regards to you and the team is that, I mean, you guys really specialize in the club business, right? And in other areas, but certainly in the world of golf and golf clubs. And so, I would assume, Ashley, that when you're going to meet a client or you're meeting a new manager or, you got a new owner that just bought a golf club or something like that, I mean, there's certain things you got to know about insurance and in the golf, how it's unique, I guess, to the golf industry. And what would you say are like, why does there need to be a specialty insurance organization, I guess, for golf that's different than, I guess, another industry or something?
So typically, you've got retail, you've got manufacturing, sales, but insurance is insurance. You've got property insurance, which is anything you can hold on to. You can insure. It's all part of you. This would be there'd be contents. The building you're sitting in right now is the buildings that you insure. But going along with the property insurance is, if your building goes down, there's a chance you're not going to be able to produce your product, or you're not going to be able to provide the service that you provide, and so there's a loss of revenue. So you've got to try and protect your revenue. You've got your property insurance, and then there's the revenue that goes with it. And there's a few other intricacies, but crime, for example, if someone steals cash from you, or bonds, or one of your employees steals product from you, that's an exclusion under the property policy. So you need a crime policy. So typically a golf course policy will look like property, boiler machinery, crime, liability, some sort of excess or umbrella which sits over top of your liability, and then a D&O policy, which is directors and officers. So that's typically what it looks like. But when it comes to the difference between a regular business and a golf course, is a regular business is going to have usually one business or one building, right? A golf course, I mean, we all know about the clubhouse and the maintenance building, but what about the pro shop, halfway house, pump house, the irrigation system, the netting and poles, the cart pass, the greens, the tees, the fairways, the bunkers? All these things have to be considered. And if you don't consider them, when you make that call and say, hey, this just happened, am I covered? And the person says, well, no, you're not. And that's the worst thing that can happen, right? So those are the things, we tell our general managers and we tell our brokers, the best thing you can do is get out on the golf course, get out there, drive in as if you are coming to your facility for the first time, walk around, use the locker room, go into the ladies' locker room, go into the men's locker room, go into the restaurant, go into the bathrooms, just kind of look around and see what's out there.
I was fortunate. I was fortunate enough to be asked to give a presentation last fall, and so I was doing some research about. I think my session was titled "It's All Fun and Games Till Someone Loses an Eye," and I was trying to make it. I was trying to make it sexy. Actually, I was trying to make the whole insurance conversation fun and interesting. But I was talking, I know, to yourselves, and you were giving me some examples of, how many clients you guys have, how many claims get made, and at the end of the day, doing basic math, I had figured out that if you're a golf club, on average, within a 5-year period, you're going to have a claim. And when they're the average claim, like $10,000, $15,000, like on average. Okay. So, well, in your experience, I mean, you get these phone calls, or you get a client, or you're dealing with insurance premiums and all that kind of stuff. What are the types of claims that happen? And then what's interesting, because I know you're going to talk about it, sometimes there's things that you don't think about. Like when you say, why would someone, if we asked our audience today to guess what would be the claims, I think it would be different than maybe what your answers are. So
yeah.
What kind of claims happen, and what are some examples of things you deal with?
So great question. The two claims that you have to think about are the big ones, right? So the big ones are fire, right? So your building burns down, and as the general manager, as the owner, the onus is on you to make sure that you can rebuild it, right? So you want to make sure that your building is covered properly, and your biggest building is going to be your clubhouse, 9 times out of 10. And then on the liability side, the big one is host liquor, is for sure a liquor related claim where, you've served someone to intoxication, they leave, and, 2 minutes out of the driveway, they're checking their phone because they haven't been on their phone for 6.5 hours, and all of a sudden they hit someone. And that person has 3 kids under 5, is a lawyer, and next thing you know, you're served, and it won't be immediately. You'll be served within the next year or two with a claim that will make your eyes bug out of your head. You're going, oh my gosh, we're covered, right? Right. So,
or worse, Ashley, right? Where people put their own booze in their bag.
Right.
You don't police it. You don't use tags on your beer cans. Everyone knows they got drinking and driving. And the guy maybe had one drink in your bar, but he had 12 of his own on the golf course.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, and then when they show up to inspect you, you don't have all that covered, right? You haven't got any proof. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, there's one of our clients. So what that happens quite a bit to them, and so what they do is they don't allow you to put your own bag on the cart. So they instruct you to go to the circle, and when you go to the circle, where's your golf bag? They lift the golf bag out, and if it's a little overweight, they ask a few questions. So that's a great risk tool right there. Yeah. But getting back to what are the common ones? So that's on the severity side. You're talking about fire, and you're talking about host liquor. From the frequency side, so we're talking water damage, especially the further north you go. So in Canada, it gets cold, right? So the northwest corner of your building, almost, I can guarantee there's somewhere up there where it is exposed to the wind, the snow, the ice, and typically we will receive between December 22nd and January 6th, we will get 2 or 3 water damage claims where, a pipe somewhere on the 3rd floor, froze, caused a leak. You don't even know it's there until you come back after the holiday, and there's a foot of water in your building. And getting water out of the building is the hardest part. You need to get it out as quickly as possible. All kinds of bad things can happen, mold, et cetera, et cetera. So water damage is very common. Theft, golf carts these days. I know you guys are in the industry, so you've seen since 2019 when the average golf cart price was between 5,000 and 7,500 to today, where you add a couple little things, and next thing you know, you got a $15,000 golf cart with the new batteries, right? So what we're seeing is, we used to see 10, 15 golf carts go missing at a time, but now we're starting to see 2, 3, 4. So literally 2 golf carts can fit on a snowmobile trailer. So if you can grab two brand new golf carts that are brand new, $15,000, and turn them around for 10,000 like that, you don't even need a key, right? So you make an easy $20,000. So we're seeing a lot more 2 golf carts going missing, 3 golf carts going missing. And the interesting thing about theft is, thieves are thieves because they're lazy. They don't want to have a job. It's easier to go and steal. So if you've ever had a theft claim, if you don't do something within a month, it's going to happen again. So all you have to do is a little something, right? And I realize that a lot of golf courses can't protect their golf carts because they just don't have, maybe they don't have the finances, they don't have the infrastructure. So their golf carts, they store them somewhere in the winter, but in the summertime, they got to leave them outside. So quickly, an interesting claim story. Can I tell you this one quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we had a client who had 3 claims in a matter of 15 months. So guess what? On the renewal, the insurers said, well, you know what? Unfortunately, the deductible is going to go to $20,000. So at that time, this is probably about 10 years ago. That's 4 golf carts. And so he's doing the math. He's going, every time somebody sees, he couldn't build a clubhouse. So what he did was he put a sign on the side of the road and said, dump fill, dump your fill, right? So these dump trucks all of a sudden started lining up because you can't really dump dirt anywhere. So he had them dump it all in the back of his parking lot. He got his grader out there and created a berm, and then stuck 2 posts in the ground at the entrance to the berm. And he's never had a stolen golf cart ever again. A little interesting little story.
Really?
Yeah. And then the other most common one right now, and which leads us into a waiver conversation, is slip and falls. The rules, 2016, the rules changed for sure in Ontario, where we became more like the United States, where if you wanted to file a bodily injury suit in Ontario, you didn't have to put up any upfront money. What the lawyers could do now is say, tell you what, I'll take this to court, but I want 30% of whatever I get you, or 40%, or even I've heard 50% sometimes. And you've got a sprained wrist or something or whatever, and sure, go ahead. What do you need? Well, just hold off. I'll find out all the information. And next thing you know, you 2 years less a day from when someone slipped out on the back 40 on the back 9 somewhere, you get a lawsuit from Huey, Herdman, Howe, and saying my client has retained us as a lawyer. He can't go upstairs anymore because they just he's got a phobia now and all these things. Next thing you know, they're suing for $250,000. And they also it's getting worse because the lawyers understand the legal system, and they will stretch it out for 3, 4, 5 years. And we're seeing what used to be, hey, we'll give you 3, 4, 5 green fees, come back some other time, to us paying out $50,000 to try and stop it from going to court.
Yeah. And then, of course, in addition to that, the club's paying legal fees. Their premiums are going to go up.
The insurers are paying the legal fees. And as soon as that comes in, like I said, insurance is perfectly priced until there's a claim, right? And then you get analyzed more. All the information has to be for us personally. So we have a point where we have authority to insure based on certain parameters. So all of a sudden you have a smaller golf course that's got a slip and fall. Now it has to go and get approved by the insurers. They start asking all kinds of questions, and quite easily you lose your 10% claims free credit, but quite easily you could be 20% higher for the next 5 years in a row, right? Mm-hmm. So protecting yourself against something like that, and if you can do it for a fairly reasonable price, that's the only way I think you can handle it, right?
Well, we're gonna pause for our infomercial communication here, ladies and gentlemen, because if you stay with us for the next half hour, at some point we're going to tell you a solution that is going to keep your premiums from going up. I'm somewhat kidding, because I think we have a question later on where we're going to talk about the importance of waivers, and Scott and I have become immersed in this business in the last 3 or 4 months, and we'll get to that in a bit, because like you said, protecting yourself against these types of incidents, they're happening more frequently. The costs are going up drastically. Insurance is going up drastically because the insurance companies have to pay for these claims and these costs that are occurring. It's happening in our industry all over the place. But Scott, what's our next question about? Yeah, so Ashley, when you go into a new client, or you're looking at a new club, or maybe it's with a club you currently have, and you just talked about some of those things. Like, for example, I lived that frozen pipe bursting between December 23rd and January 2nd. I've lived that world twice. where water damage has come into the clubhouse, and it's a complete nightmare. Like, I mean, believe me, the benefits of getting new carpet and new paint on the walls does not exceed the pain and suffering of going through the whole insurance process of claims and quotes and et cetera, et cetera. But I learned all about water alarms. I learned about the importance of checking the clubhouse on having someone go in on a regular basis overnight, or during the days during that holiday period when your clubhouse is closed, et cetera, et cetera. So what are some of the insurance gaps, actually, that you see with some clubs and owners and operators?
So we talked about it earlier. A lot of times, so our clientele are actually the insurance brokers that would be playing at these golf courses and are in the local neighborhood. And so the first time we'll see a golf course, typically, they'll have building coverage, and they'll have some equipment coverage, and they'll have liability. And then I said, well, what buildings are you covering? Oh, I don't know, clubhouse, maintenance building. So having a clear, what we see a lot is, they contemplate the clubhouse and the maintenance building, but they don't think about all the other buildings that, you're going to see at a golf course. And, we've already talked about them. The pump house. Yeah, pump house. Well, my pump house is worth $3,000. Yeah, but what about the equipment that's inside of it? You might have $100,000 to $400,000 worth of pumping equipment inside, and one lightning hit will fry it all, right? One lightning hit. Where's your irrigation system covered, right? So again, a lightning hit to one sprinkler head could pop 10 sprinkler heads. And last time I looked, I think a Toro or a Rainbird sprinkler could be somewhere around $1,000 per head. And we've seen lightning hits where the claim's $150,000 up to $350,000. Those are some of the gaps. And then another one would be undervaluing your equipment, your not only your golf cart fleet, but also your maintenance equipment. So one of the things we do is we ask for a schedule. It's basically your inventory. So your superintendent, they have an inventory. So all they have to do is apply. If that's gone tomorrow, John, how much do you need to replace it? And that's all he says is he places that down, and then you get a total, and that's your insurance for your maintenance equipment. Same thing with golf carts. You might have. I was looking at one today where they have like 15 2023 club cars, but then they have a mix of 2011 2013 easy goes. So they may not want 15,000 for the 2011s and 2013s, but they might want 3,000. So just tell us what you want. So what happens is they go missing, and they give us this list. They give it to the adjuster, and rather than a claim taking 3-4 months because the golf season is so short in Canada, you want it to you want a new cart in your hands in 3 days. Never mind 3 months. So valuing your equipment, your buildings is very, very important. And then we also touched on the business interruption and revenue protection. It's probably the cheapest price product that you can buy on your insurance policy. It's usually an 80 to 90% of the rate of your building. We'll see a golf course with $10 million in revenue, yet they'll buy $1 million in business interruption. And I get it. There's not much that can shut your golf course down for a long, long time. But there are some things out there like, forest fire these days is something that you've got to contemplate. There's been some very, very serious ones, very, very close to golf courses, and a couple that have been hit. And, when you have something that major, like a forest fire hitting a town, getting back up and running, getting contractors in to rebuild your buildings it's going to take twice as long because everybody in the town needs contractors. Like if you think about, I can name Fort McMurray, for example, right? The whole town got wiped out. Imagine trying to get a plumber. They're where are they coming from? So one of the issues there was, you think about business interruption, and most people will think about thinking about your revenue for 12 months, but rebuilding a building that when there was a big catastrophe type loss, it isn't going to be 12 months. It's going to be 18 months or 24 months. We haven't had anything like this yet, but an earthquake is coming. There is going to be something like that. So contemplating, okay, so you sit down with your accountant and say, hey, if I don't have a clubhouse for 2 years, what does that look like? Or what does that look like to me to operate out of a trailer? And what kind of revenues should I expect? Can I get a tent? Can I put a tent in the parking lot? What can I do to run tournaments? Right? Where do I seat 140 people, 144? Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, and I think it's critical because I've done enough work I've got into enough clubs in my days to know that within the first 48 hours that they have a schedule that is updated annually, that is accurate, that is all encompassing, or more often, it's all in the superintendent's head. The kitchen hasn't updated their files for 4 years. It's throughout the facility, they just haven't addressed it or done a very significant job. They just keep doing the same form that the old manager had for sending a schedule to their broker, and no one's pushing them or no one's asking, right? And they really haven't. They really couldn't tell you what's the current today price to replace that mower or that oven or that machine or whatever it might be, right? And so I think that's always one of the first things that when we're doing kind of an audit, when it comes to operational efficiencies, it's like, do you have all that down, and can you produce that document, because they're going to be underinsured otherwise, and maybe that's going to keep their premiums down, but it's not going to help them if something bad happens.
Yeah, like I said, the best call ever is when something bad happens and you call and say, I'm covered, right? And the answer is yes. It's happy.
Scott, I know I just talked about a minute ago about moisture and temperature alarms, because water damage, I know, is a significant thing, right? And there is new technology out there, right? That can help with these types of things. And this gets into the next conversation too, which is about waivers and various different things. But Ashley, whose role is it? Like, is it the broker, or is it yourselves, or is it after something happens? But like, when does the conversation happen that looks at a club and says, hey, have you considered, water moisture alarms, or have you considered your waiver program? Or you considered, like, when does that conversation happen, and who has it?
So I'll skip to waivers first. So we try to have the conversation every renewal for the last since 2020. We've been trying to push waivers, and we give a fairly significant discount if they use waiver, if golf courses will use waivers. It's been a tough road to get golf courses to institute them. What's interesting is some of the hardest courses in Canada to get on, the most private, are the ones that are using it, and not the heartbeat in a wallet sort of, if you have a heartbeat in a wallet you can play. Those ones are saying, wow, we don't need it, and it's too much of a pain. But I was just at a pretty exclusive club over the weekend. I was lucky enough to get out there and play, and before I could get on the property, I had to sign off on a waiver. And basically the waiver says, there's inherent risks with playing golf, such as driving a golf cart, walking up and down terrain, up and down steps. There's errant golf balls. You, by coming to play on our property, you are assuming all of that risk, whether it's our fault or not. And that's key. That's a key part of the waiver is because of the occupier's liability laws in Canada. You as the occupier will be assigned a certain amount of responsibility simply because it's your property, right? So in your waiver, you got to make sure that you say, even if it is deemed to be our fault, right? So, and some people go, well, what do you mean? You know, let me trust me. If you send someone out on a defective golf cart that doesn't have brakes, there isn't a waiver in the world that's going to help you. If you're negligent, you're negligent. However, there are certain inherent risks to golf, right? There just are. You know, some of the claims we're seeing like make general managers and owners shake their head. Someone hits it out of bounds and is reaching over the fence to grab their golf ball and wipes out over the fence, doesn't even file a report. All of a sudden, you know, 700 days later, the golf course gets a writ from a lawyer saying, hey, this guy's suing you for $250,000. Why? Well, he tripped over your fence trying to retrieve a golf ball. And, you know, you lose your mind or, you know, another one is someone's doing donuts going down a, you know, like a wet grassy hill, and you slam the brakes on and the cart flips over. Duh. But, you know, and then they try to blame the golf course. So yeah, those are some of the things that, you know, we talk about waivers every year on renewal. Unfortunately, the moisture alarms, the only time we start talking about them is after a claim.
Yeah.
It would be really, and once you have a water claim, all kinds of things happen. Like number one is your premium goes up dramatically, and you almost become untouchable by, you know, other insurers. So you're at the mercy of your current insurers, and they don't like water claims because they feel like those are things that should be able to be managed, right? So in an effort to save on, you know, a few dollars, you know, I'm going to be out of the office. We're going to be out of the clubhouse for 3-4 days. Let's turn the temperature down 1 or 2 degrees. Try and save a little. You know, if anything, turn it up. You know, leave a little bit. You know, in the northwest corners or in the smaller bathrooms, leave the water dripping. Right. Those are kind of some of the things that you can do outside of getting moisture alarms. And you know, if you have 2 claims, it's going to be mandated by the insurers that we're not going to insure you. We're going to exclude water damage unless you have moisture alarms.
Yeah. You touched on a couple of things there, and we're not going to get into all the details. We're excited about a new platform that we're bringing to North America, which is a waiver platform. In our opinion, you know, you can't get onto a trampoline park without signing your 15 waivers. Yet you can drive a golf cart around water and holes in the ground and in the dark in a machine that has no sides and no seatbelt. With a beer in your hand, exactly. With a beer in your hand. So we predict that waivers are the future in the golf industry, and we've got an exciting platform, and we've got a partnership with Signature that we're going to be talking about in a few weeks. But what you said is so critical, and that is that I don't think people realize that the changing of the laws in the last 6 or 7 years that allows lawyers to take on cases on contingency like that, so that a person can sue a property without any kind of down payment or without any kind of investment, and just roll the dice, baby. And you know what we've heard from other people is that the first question the lawyer says is, "Did you sign a waiver?" And
Absolutely.
if they signed a waiver, then it's going to be a lot less likely they're going to take it on. The next question I wanted. So how does a golf club? You talk about a golf club determining or they're becoming uninsurable when cases happen or when things don't happen or when they go about assessing their current insurance coverage. So and I apologize, but let me just ask this question. So a broker is the guy that's out selling. A broker comes to a golf club, right? And then that broker is going to then go try to find that golf club insurance, and the broker is going to contact yourselves, right?
Correct. Yep.
And because you specialize in the and they might contact another provider as well, and they're going to get quotes, and they're going to figure out all those things, right? And so I assume that one company that's providing insurance that might specialize in golf will ask all those questions, and maybe another company that maybe doesn't have marinas or yacht clubs or campgrounds or different types of things in their portfolio, they might ask less questions. So if you're an owner operator or a manager right now and you're about to go into a renewal meeting, how do you kind of determine if you have the right insurance, if your coverage is adequate?
I think that's another great question. I think one of the interesting things, what's great about Signature and what we do is we're all golfers. So we understand the game. So we understand that, most golf courses will have two pump houses. One's the collection pond, and one by the collection pond that pushes it to the irrigation pond, and the irrigation pond has a pump that pumps it out and out to the system. So, there's certain times we'll look at a statement of values, or I'll look at a statement of values and go, well, I've played there. What about your halfway house? Or, I played there. What about your pro shop? It's a separate building. It's right beside the clubhouse. But more importantly, I think, there's one thing. One thing is the wordings, but the other thing is the interpretation of coverage, right? So a lot of times we will get calls, or I'll get calls from our adjusters, and I don't make the final call. That's up to the insurers. But they will ask for, what do you think could have happened here, and do you think there is applicable coverage? So like for example, you have simulators, right? So a golf course may not include simulators in their as a separate line item in their contents, and another insurer will say, well, we're insuring just contents. It doesn't simulators. This is electronic equipment that we're not really covering. We'll give you up to 25,000 for EDP, electronic data processing, but then you say, well, my simulators, I have two of them. They're worth $110,000.
So Ashley, sorry, just on that note, I heard a story where a club put in a simulator. Mm-hmm. They converted an empty space downstairs in the wintertime, put in a simulator. All of a sudden, first couple of days, some guy whacks the ball, didn't build a simulator properly. It hit a pipe, came back, hit the guy in the head. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they were in big trouble because they didn't have insurance to cover literally playing golf in the basement of the clubhouse. Like it wasn't, the insurers were like declining the claim, right? So the same thing, going to court, all that other kind of stuff. Does that seem relevant and make sense?
No, it is, so during the COVID years, there was a lot of talk about, how do we get people to the club in the winter. So there was a lot of winter activities. So golf courses decided that, we're going to do walking trails, try and get people out. We're going to do cross-country skiing trails. Some went as far as building rinks, like on ponds or in their parking lots. And, I'm looking at a few of these on Twitter or in social media. I'm going, well, we insure them, and that looks like a full-on hockey rink in their parking lot. So if you're going to change, that's great. Like they are country clubs and they have different activities. If you're going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary, call your broker, let them know, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. Don't call them after you've done it, because your insurer might say, no, we can't insure that.
Right.
Some, like for example, mountain bikes or the big fat wheels. Some insurer or some program manager somewhere may have had a bad experience 20 years ago with someone getting really hurt riding a bike down a hill, and they're adamant, no, we're not insuring that. And then you're on your own, and are you willing to insure it yourself, or do you just shut it down, right?
Well, the nature of the business has changed, right? They underwrite as a golf course, but now you have hockey happening, and it's a different type of business now,
Completely
right?
different
You
business.
just have to really let people know what you're doing when it comes to communicating with your broker and your insurance company.
Yeah, ask the question before, not after, right? That's very important. Canada Day, for example. Hey, we're having a big barbecue and we're doing fireworks. Some insurers lose their mind when they hear fireworks, right? So, one of the things I wanted to touch on earlier was the cost of risk. It isn't just insurance. You have a cost of risk, and your cost of risk can be handled three ways. One is you self-insure through deductibles, or you just say, screw it. If something bad happens, I'll pay for it myself. The second is by transferring the risk to someone else through a contract. So think of someone, James, you own the golf course, you lease it to me to operate, but you say you have to hold me harmless for anything that happens while you're operating the golf course. And then the third is insurance, right? So one of the things that if you're going to have a fireworks, some sort of fireworks going on, the best thing to do is to bring in someone who has insurance already, right? Rather than trying to get your insurer to insure you because your men's club captain, he does it in his neighborhood. You want someone who has a little bit of who has insurance and has done it before, put it that way.
Well, it's the same thing when you're doing a renovation of your clubhouse and you're not ensuring that contractors have their own coverage, have their own, they're fully licensed, bondable, all that stuff. Instead of, once again, it doesn't matter until something happens. And then when something happens, the what hits the fan.
Yeah. And everybody hides behind their lawyer, right? So,
what actually, and Scott, we didn't even talk about this. I mean, you used to be in the insurance business, before you came back to the fold and saw the light again, and joined Gig Nation. But it's evident, obviously, that the costs of insurance have increased, everywhere. Like, doesn't matter what world or industry you're in. But Ashley, could you, if I said to you, like, we're having a beer, hey, why is insurance so expensive these days? What are the answers? What are the reasons in general from a 30,000 foot level that just has caused? I think I have some ideas, but what are the reasons for that?
So property is more expensive. The cost of living has a big impact on that. So, 20 years ago, a $10,000, like we were just talking about golf carts, right? 10 years ago, golf cart was $5,000. Now, you've got a fleet of 40 to 50 golf carts. That's do the math for me there. $2 million or 5,000, 40, 200,000. Yeah, 200,000. Now that same fleet is 400,000. So, the rate may not have changed, but your insurance has doubled. Yeah, right. But because the replacement cost is higher. Building materials. We had all through COVID. I mean, the supply chain and lumber was 2, 3, 4 times the price, right? And then the golf courses have claims. They're exposed to the elements. There's a lot of people on, and what's interesting, and when I'm getting back to those slip and falls again, almost every slip and fall we see is our claimant or our client slipped and fell on uneven ground. And I feel like saying, can you please show me where there is even ground on a golf course anywhere? Oh, wait a minute, the first tee maybe. Okay. But yeah, the premiums have gone up because claims. We're a different we're a different type of economy now. So it's always someone else's fault. For example, right? Uh, there's more thefts going on. Um, someone gets hurt and it's not their fault. It's your fault for putting a door there or for putting a step there. Um, that's the big thing is everything is increased. So in order to get you back, indemnify you, it's going to cost more. Simple.
The easiest way to put it, I think, James, is the principle of insurance is the premiums of the many pay for the losses of the few, right? So if the value of the losses are higher today than they were 10 years ago, an insurance company needs to collect more premium to offset the cost of those losses and indemnify. So that's exactly what Ashley said. That's what it boils down to.
And I feel bad for the facilities that have never had a claim in 10, 15 years. But I've also seen it where I ask for a loss run and they come back and say, we've been insuring this. The broker comes back and says, we've been insuring this golf course for 20 years. They've never had a claim. And then, 3 months in, the clubhouse burns to the ground or something, right? And it's a $15 million claim. So how do you ever get your money back as an insurer when there's that kind of a claim, right? And there's all kinds of things that go in behind an insurance contract, but those kind of things leave a mark, a big mark.
So we got a few minutes left. When you talk about kind of like a good plan for a club to have, like a good risk, and that's why Scott and I are excited about this area of the business, because we feel it's been underserviced. We feel that risk management training, risk management plans, waivers. We hear from clients that do you have it? No, we don't. Have you done have you literally done an evacuation drill with all your staff in the last 12 months? No, we haven't. Well, that's required by law, let alone other things. So and once again, you've been sharing with us other times, Ashley, about the fact that if a club doesn't take these things seriously, they can become uninsurable, or if they keep having claims, they can become uninsurable, and then good luck. Then I can only imagine what happens to the costs of your premiums for increasing. So there's a couple, the two questions kind of together. What are the key steps the club needs to take to have a good risk management plan? And then I think that the last question are some examples of when a club has had a good plan, or how have they avoided, their premiums increasing drastically, and what are some good news stories besides all the bad news stories that we have?
So at your fingertips, if you're the general manager, the owner, you should have an asset list. Like, you should have an asset list. You should know what's in every closet. You need to know what's on every wall. You need to know that when I drive up tomorrow morning, if it's not there, how much money do I need to put it back? How much money do I need to put it back? And, once you start peeling back the onion or the golf course, you open the pro shop and you see, okay, that in that 1,000 square foot space, I have $220,000 worth of property in there. You walk back into the kitchen, you open the refrigerator and you go, wow, I've got $40,000 worth of property in there. You go into the wine cellar or behind the bar, and you open it up and you go, whoa, I got $30,000 worth of liquor and beer in there. You go down to the maintenance building and you open up the storage area and you go, oh, you know what? I've got $1.2 million worth of equipment there. and then you start breaking down that so that you can, not only as a for an insurance tool, but also you start to realize that the beer is disappearing quicker than the wine, so we need to buy more beer, less wine, right? I mean, it's the business thing. The new fairway mowers, for example, you can spend $250,000 on something that was $80,000 5 years ago. Um, the so
I also tell the story, Ashley, when someone comes to me and says they want to buy a new hammer, and my comment is always like, who stole the last one? Because hammers don't break, right? So either if it's gone missing, right, and when you get into that inventory, you start to realize all the tools and all the pieces and all the stuff, and you're once again, like, your supplies that is in the budgeting process. You need $3,000 worth of tools. Well, where are the other tools? Either we're adding more tools or replacing broken ones, or someone's getting stolen. So it's a very valuable process to go through.
Yeah, and then on the operations side, your only defense in court against whether it's a slip and fall, host liquor, whatever, your only defense is what you do, and what you do all the time, get in every situation, is very, very important, because this is what we do. We don't ever serve someone more than 3 drinks without asking them, how are they getting home tonight? Or how are they getting home this afternoon? We don't ever give the keys to a golf cart to someone to a golf cart without asking them, have you ever driven a golf cart before? Do you know that these, the gas is on the right and the brake's on the left, and the emergency brake is on the top left? I mean, the new golf carts are a little different, but those certain things, you can't just expect people to understand. And especially when everyone's trying to grow the game, you can't expect people to just know how. If you never grew up on a golf course like we have, you can't just expect people to know what to do, or where to go, or where the next hole is, what the etiquette is. You don't walk in front of someone if they're about to hit the golf ball, right? So those are things that we do instinctually, but other people, especially the people that are growing the game or are new to the game, have no idea any of that.
Yeah, I lived the nightmare of a golfer drinking his own alcohol, driving backwards down a golf cart path that was not designed to be driven backwards. It was designed to be gone up a hill, not down a hill. Flipped the cart, head injury, sued the golf course before my time. But we didn't have 3 years later, lawyer shows up, right? Didn't have a waiver signed. Didn't have any training manuals showing that we regularly swept the sand off of the path so that the cart couldn't slip. We didn't have a maintenance record of that specific golf cart that showed that the brakes were working perfectly, right? We didn't have proof that we had checked the guy's golf bag to see if his fireball was confiscated, et cetera, et cetera. Right?
Et cetera, yeah.
So the insurers settled out of court for $250,000, right? And then that client had to live with increased premiums, prove they started doing had to change their whole systems, right? I mean, if you're around long enough, you're going to deal with some situation that is, you're going to wish you had a really good risk management program to at least minimize the potential of a high loss or losing your safe claim or your premiums doubling or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, or someone getting hurt.
More importantly,
that's the most important thing. We want everybody to get out there and be safe and have fun and come back and go, that was the greatest experience I could ever imagine. Thank you so much, James.
Yeah,
I'll see you next week, right?
Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today. Fantastic stuff. We're going to put in our post how they can get in touch with you with a question. But otherwise, I'm assuming, if they're not, I mean, I know you guys have hundreds and hundreds of clients in North America, and we'd love our U.S. clients to go to Signature Specialty clubs and go to Signature Special to learn more about now that you guys are in the U.S. We've got some exciting plans with our waiver platform and our safety platform, the Toolbox, that's going to be announced in a few weeks. But anything else, Ashley, about you want to tell Gig Nation?
Yeah, gig it up. Let's go. No,
Awesome.
honestly, it's great to work in this industry, meeting people like Scott, yourself, and all the general managers out there. It's a very personable industry. People like people. It's a very people-oriented industry, and I'm hopefully going to be working in it quite a bit longer.
You got it. Well, thanks, Ashley. Great to have you. Gig Nation, everybody else, excuse me, thanks for watching. And I'm going to sign off this time with be safe out there.